Had a late start. We'll catch up, no problem. Am I audible?
Yeah, audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. You can see the screen.
You are audible, sir.
Yeah, my slides are visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
visible.
Visible.
Yeah. Thank
Yes,
you
sir,
very
we
much.
can see.
Yeah, thank you very
Visible
much.
and audible.
Yeah, we'll get started. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಸರ್. ಇದು ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಶನ್ ಮೋಡ್ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡಿ ಸರ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ನ.
Okay, so next slide. Oh, put that. Okay, so this presentation is a continuation of what we were doing yesterday. So we already saw something about Indian knowledge system and other knowledge system. We also saw that most knowledge systems have built themselves on what is called indigenous knowledge system. Okay. They develop locally across continents and cultures. Consolidation, maturity to codified knowledge systems happened upon settled cultures. So it's only when the first hunter-gatherer shifted towards semi-nomadic, partly stationary, agricultural, at least one season at a time, what one calls early urbanization, all this started happening. There's been a big churn. There's no doubt that things have been changing slowly and sometimes dramatically, and were strongly driven by institutionalized religions. You will see that particularly after 300 AD, much more after 800 AD. Okay. Colonial area is well documented. Okay. At that time, Western knowledge system not only emerged, it also proliferated across the world. What is important is the Western knowledge system was greatly aided by science and technology of the kind that emerged post-Renaissance period. Okay, so it's only from 16th century you see this domination that happens. So, question to ask is, many knowledge systems have gone. So why is it that some knowledge systems even now thrive or are popular? And in particular, why does the Western knowledge system dominate now? And what are its historical roots? After all, the Western knowledge system only started dominating from 16th century. It can't suddenly happen. It must have had roots earlier, and we'll see that. What one understands very clearly is only when there is excellence in or through knowledge system, this endorses its acceptance. Otherwise, when the knowledge system is not excellent, acceptance is only through violence or imposition, which you find in many countries in the world today or many parts of the world. What one means excellence is basically something that provides comfort and quality of life through its tenets or components of knowledge system that its people, we are to express as culture, seems to endorse its popularity and growth. So you will see that now lot of community festivals, lot of community efforts and organizations, right? They have been there even before the British rule. They have been there even before the advent of Islam, and it continues, right? So when I say community, it is the set of people living in a certain geographical area who accept certain things and observe, practice, reinforce, document, expand all that happened. You will also see common cases of imposed knowledge systems, which has neither of the above. That is, it neither gives comfort nor there is quality of life. And we have recent examples like what happened in Syria and Iraq, that ISIS, what is happening in Afghanistan as Taliban, what is happening as Boko Haram in Nigeria, what is happening in North Korea, what is happening in the Golden Triangle area of, Burma, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand. Okay. The question to ask is, what does knowledge system really do? Will any knowledge system finally bring peace, prosperity, happiness to all? So that's the final goal. The final goal of every knowledge system is to bring to its believers, followers, and proponents, through its tenets, attributes, and components, a sense of peace, prosperity, and happiness to all who live by or with it. But it's also important, it should bring peace, prosperity, and happiness to those around who may not subscribe to it. This is one thing which is, I think, unique to the Indian knowledge system, little to the Western knowledge system, and definitely no to the Arabic knowledge system. In these knowledge systems, if you agree to this knowledge system, you live well. If you don't agree also, you live well. So that's why in India, we have so many others who have other faiths, other viewpoints, including absolutely atheists. All of them have a minimum levels of peace, prosperity, and happiness, right? How is it achieved? It is achieved by its excellence, the utility of it, the sense of justice, equity as a policy, quality as a norm, and equality in law. Okay. Now, each of these has to be elaborated. You can have a separate session on utility, justice, and some things are covered here. I know there are people who have also giving sessions on justice through Indian knowledge system, etc. We will not go into all of this, but we will just look at excellence. Okay. For the moment, we shall look at only excellence, which is indeed a hallmark of quality of every knowledge system. Okay. We'll briefly take back a step and see that why the Western knowledge system dominates today. First is it has the Greco-Roman basis for modern science, technology, and philosophy. So you still see Pythagoras theorem, Euclidean algorithm, Socrates philosophy, Plato, Aristotle. These are the names that you frequently use in your textbooks, and even class 6 and 7 people use Pythagoras theorem, etc. The second point why it is so popular is the state sponsorship of Christian philosophy or a worldview, followed and aided by wars and colonization, which was extremely brutal. Okay. After all, Columbus went to South America or North America, which he didn't know he had discovered. He thought he was coming to India. His main idea was to conquer new lands and make them Christians. Okay. So everything was done in the name of Queen or King of Portugal or Queen of Spain, Isabella. And not surprising that 80% of South America is now Christianity. Okay. And it was extremely brutal and violent. Not surprising that there was also conflict of what is called conflict of civilizations, where Christianity and Islam fought each other for 700 years. 712 years they fought continuously, with some breaks, of course. The maturity, expansion, and depth provided to modern science and technology through Renaissance period. That's really the most strongest factor of why the Western knowledge system dominates today. And more recently, development and manufacture of numerous gadgets, services in field of manufacturing, finance, healthcare, and communication during the last 300 years. After all, everybody today has a mobile phone. All of us are talking through internet. Many of you have gone through ECG. Some of you may have been unfortunate to go through CT scan or MRI, right? All these things, people travel by train, plane, etc. So a lot of our daily life is aided, supported, and it, like our online session today, it is inevitable that we use the internet. Okay, I cannot shout for everybody in this country. So this is what How did all this, you look at the old Greeks called Roman Greek topics that we still look at. So this is the three great philosophers, Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. This is the Aristotle logic, which is still used today. Okay. And this is the book of Euclid, which we use even today. He came across, actually, there were 16 books. One is lost forever. So these are 15 books put together. And in just the book one, done in 325, so 2,500 years back. So all these definitions of what is point, straight line, triangle, quadrilaterals, angle, all this has been done. Okay. Even more interesting is what we now, the modern science completely depends on people like Newton, who did calculus, so is Leibniz, and other mathematicians like Euler, who revolutionized the field of maths of what we use. Particular, you see here, the symbols E, pi, I, f of x, sigma. These are 5 most used symbols in modern science today. All the symbols were given by Euler. Okay. Yeah. And this is the 2 famous books by Newton, which influence physics and calculus, physics and maths. And if we shift to modern world, you will see dramatic changes. For example, just 100 years back, this is a scenario in World War I, where you have soldiers on a tank which is crossing a ditch. If you translate 100 years from here, this is a war in Iraq being fought, but the main person who commands this tank here is somewhere in America, 7,000 miles away, directing it. Similarly here, this is the first photograph of William Röntgen doing X-ray. Within 100 years, you will see here, this is the surgeon who is operating, but the patient is here. Robotic surgery has taken over, right? So the use of physics, maths, chemistry, material science, and engineering put together has converted within 100 years this much change.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಹಾಕಿರಿ ಒಂದೆರಡು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಇವ್ರು ಯಾರ ಬಂದೆ
Please. Yeah. So this is what? Lot of devices. And you see here today in just 200 years, this is what Fourier gave the results. But in 200 years, you now have CT scan, which looks inside your body. These are the mathematics equations which has converted to a gadget which does your CT scan. Okay. Similarly, the internet. These were the 4 people who made the internet. But about 20 years before them, this man had actually done the mathematics and the process needed to make internet. Okay. Similarly here, we all experienced this. This is COVID. We had COVID problem. All of you have gone through it. And how did they make a vaccine? They took a lot of data from this, both genetic, physiological, and all kinds of data, and did what is today done as artificial intelligence and machine learning. They use one part of the solution to get very good possibilities of vaccines. 10 vaccines were identified. Out of 10, 3 were strongly identified, and these 3 were tested. And in 1 year, you had a vaccine, and in 2 years, the entire world was vaccinated twice. So this is nothing but combination of all physics, chemistry, mathematics, biochemistry, genetic, all these things, right? So this type of analysis and converting it into products which are useful, which saves human life, whatever you call it, is the cornerstone of Western science today. And it's not surprising that it dominates our world, but we need to look little more before we can actually conclude very strongly. Okay. Now let's see they have done all this and they have done it in 400 years. They couldn't have started. After all, counting is at least 10,000 years old. We have had buildings, including pyramids of Egypt, before Newton's laws of mechanics was discovered. So a lot of things were done even before formally making it into a knowledge system. In fact, looking at all these things, people built science. For example, Galileo saw a lot of chandeliers and clocks, pendulums, and then eventually understood the simple harmonic motion. Okay. Similarly, Kepler and others saw planetary motion going on. Earth has been going around with full moon day, new moon day, cycles, everything. It is observed for thousands of years. Then they formulated the laws of planetary motion. Okay. So what is interesting about modern science or Western knowledge system is the capacity to both look forward and backward. That is, it can tell you how the world was before, and it can also tell you how the world is likely to be in future. It can look on a very micro scale, like microscope, or even on a cosmic scale, like telescope. It can look outside the body through a stethoscope. It can look into the body through a CT scanner. It can send people inside Earth, under the sea, and it has even sent people to moon. Of course, they have also caused irreparable damage, caused climate issue, and have been responsible for more collateral damage than even World War II. World War II, millions died. But the modern science has taken billions away. There is more wealth, but there is more inequality today. It also created the COVID-19 virus and its vaccine. You see here. I mentioned about Galileo. I also mentioned about what happened with the Big Bang. So eventually this is the modern physics which tells our universe started with a Big Bang. And we are here today where all the galaxies are formed, humans are sitting and wondering how all this happened. Okay. So the early galaxies formed only about 3 lakh years back. Till then, all these were only in molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, right? This is it. So we now know Big Bang started our known universe. The question to ask is, if it started, what was there before it? It cannot be empty. So one of the theories is that it starts with almost nothing, expands, then again collapses to some one tiny or insignificant space, and then again expand. This cycle. So Big Bang, maximum expansion, what is called the big crunch, where you squeeze everything in, and again another Big Bang. This cycle appears to be, this model appears to be an explanation for our universe. And it's very interesting that many Western scientists, very famous scientists like Carl Sagan, Niels Bohr, Oppenheimer, everybody, Indian or Hindu knowledge system is the only system that has correctly identified cyclic nature. Big Bang followed by big crunch of the universe, and it is time scale correctly. See, we were already talking about words like Akshohini and all that. Those large size numbers was unheard of in the Western knowledge system. So almost 1000 years before Western knowledge system identified cyclic nature and time scale, Indian knowledge system had identified it correctly, but it had not measured it scientifically in modern terms or with instruments. For example, one advantage of Western knowledge system is everything in the Western knowledge system builds on measurements. Measurements are done using instrumentation. For example, the Large Hadron Collider, LIGO Observatory, James Webb Telescope, all these give you data to tell that the universe is on a cyclic nature. We have hypothesized it. We have understood it, but neither can we prove nor have we measured it. That's been one of the problems with Indian knowledge system. Truth is there, but no justification, no quantification. Therefore, many truths cannot be accepted. All knowledge systems show their strength by construction. Huge. That's why the Egyptian pyramids are very big. The Roman and the Greek architecture, statues and other things are very big. So you will see here, okay? This is the ancient Egyptian representation, okay? Earlier in 1200 BC it was this. Today, of course, all the colors have faded out and eroded. This is the Great Wall of China. This is a representation of the Greek architecture. This is a representation of the Roman architecture, the aqueducts. This is the Central American Aztecs and Aztec civilization. This is the ancient Machu Picchu in Peru. So very impressive architecture, which simply says that they had knowledge to build all this. That's what it is, okay? Of course, there was no Newton's law and other mechanics, but intuitively and by practice and observation, they have already built this. And from this, you can prove Newton's laws, whatever, right? But look at our architecture. This is an interesting photo of what is the Ajanta caves, right? You will also see close-up of these various caves here as you. And this was done in the period 550 AD to 950 AD over 3 sessions. And you will also see impressive things inside the caves. Inside the caves, you see architecture like this. Amazing sculpturing. You will see some of the faded paints here, but they also had blue color. And this blue color was not available in India. Little came from Afghanistan, but a lot of it came from Egypt. More interesting is there are paintings, some of which is oil paintings. Please remember, Indians were doing oil painting 1000 years before Leonardo started painting in Italy. Even though Leonardo's Mona Lisa and all that painting on St. Paul's Cathedral is very famous, it is exactly 1000 years after oil painting was done in India. Okay. More interesting architecture. This is the Kailasnath temple in Ellora, which you can see the hillock here. From this hillock, it has been carved out. Nothing was built from a raw hillock. The entire temple was built like this, and the size is unbelievable. You can see the humans as a comparison. So the bottommost layer, please remember it had no foundation because directly from the hilltop it was carved. Gopura first and the bottom pillars last. And these bottom pillars are supported symbolically by elephants, almost life size. And even more, not only volume and size, not only volume and size, even intricate, even on the staircase there you go, you will have complete Ramayana and Mahabharata etched out. Very delicate, very massive and grandeur, right? This is very delicate. In the same place. Of course, you have so many examples. This is an amazing pillar in Hoysala style in Bhoganandishwara. And of course, equally world famous, the Brihadishwara temple in Tanjavur. And I know people who have gone to Egypt. I know archaeologists who have worked here in Ellora. They say very clearly the world's greatest human architecture is definitely this Kailasnath Ellora temple. Nobody can build it once more. People can build Taj Mahals, but they cannot build this. This is impossible to build now. And not surprising that this is not ranked among the 7 wonders of the world, because if you rank this, this will be ranked 0th wonder, because it is wonder before all the other wonders. But since people don't understand Indian knowledge system well, this is not regarded very high. But I've seen it, I've spent time. I think it's definitely one of the world's greatest monument. Okay. It's also not surprising that this is from soft stone, whereas these are all hard stone, granite, basalt, whatever. But people have not been quiet. This is a very interesting palace. This is the world's second largest wooden palace. So people in Indian knowledge system also was working with wood very well. This is in a place called Padmanabhapura, which is about 40 kilometers from Thiruvananthapuram. It's a second largest wooden palace. The first largest wooden palace is in Tokyo. So Indian architecture is unbelievable. So if you had these architectures for thousands of years, it means the knowledge system there had this grandeur, much comparable or even better than anything that you see in the West. Okay. This is impressive in a very large scale, but not artistic. It's just walls. Okay. If you really want something unbelievable, if you want to see music in stone, this is the best example in the world. Hampi it has converted all these boulders into musical instruments, literally. Amazing. And not surprising, it was vandalized by another knowledge system which the Bahmani kingdoms followed, right? So we had in astronomy and astrophysics, we had in architecture, mathematics, like Greeks, Mesopotamians, Indians also. And the most important contribution to the world has been the decimal system, adding 0, positional arithmetic, which is an introduction of Indians, right? It is wrongly called Arabic numeral system, which was just a copy in Persian of the Indian numerical system. Arabs had no, but even today they have no original contribution. Okay. This copy translate also worked in other disciplines of knowledge, eventually assisted for Renaissance to happen in Europe. Okay. See, this is an old manuscript dating to 4th century AD, which is already a copy of the earlier one. It was found in a place called Bakshali, which is now a village in Pakistan. So it is earlier part of the Indian subcontinent. This is the manuscript written in Prakrit with the Brahmi script. But this manuscript is available in Oxford University Museum today. And it was a problem about trading horses with 2 breeds of horses and camel, which is exactly the problem that you face in camel fair in Pushkar today in Rajasthan. Okay. So they were also solving it algebraically. That's one other contribution of the Indian this thing. But there are many other things. For example, as early as 200 BC, that is 2,400 years back, this scholar Pingala introduced what is today the binary system. Binary, only ones and zeros, which is exactly what the computer uses. Okay. They also have clearly defined the numbers written in a pattern, which is today identified as Pascal's triangle. They already had infinite series as early as 500 to 800 AD, which we now define in the West as Fibonacci series. So Fibonacci pattern of numbers. Okay. In fact, in 1703, Leibniz, the famous man who invented calculus, also, this is his handwritten notes of representing binary numbers, decimal numbers in binary form. which is today exactly what 8-bit numbers which are used in computers, right? Similarly, Brahmagupta, which was in 598 AD, okay? So he gave 4 methods of multiplication. He gave the formula for computing geometric series, okay? He was the first to use 0 as a number. He gave rules to compute with 0. Brahmagupta introduced negative numbers. The modern rule that 2 negative numbers multiplied together equals a positive number first appears by him. He was also followed by Bhaskaracharya, who is an astronomer. And during astronomical calculations in this period, he also introduced the trigonometry of compound numbers, what you now see sine of a plus b and sine of a. This is how it was. He wrote 4 books, one on arithmetic, one on algebra, one on study of planets, early celestial mechanics, which Kepler and others do it after almost another 400 years. And also all these conic sections and other things of spheres, right? In fact, the Islamic or Arabic Persian translation of Leelavati was done in 1587. This eventually went to Latin. Latin translations continued to all European languages, right? You will see that now here. See, this is how the Indian numeral systems was. And today it's a modern numeral system. It started like this. This is the time Brahmi script numbers. This is the Hindu numerals. And you will see the page written by Fibonacci. See, Arabic calculations are far superior to European calculations, and it will be very good to adapt the Arabic form of calculation. What is Arabic form of calculation? Basically using decimal system of Indian system, okay? Please remember, Arabs have never contributed anything original in history of time. Their original contribution to knowledge system is 0 in scientific and other domains. But they have been excellent travelers, they have been excellent tradesmen, right? So this photocopy of his book eventually influenced Italians to first adapt Indian numeral system, right? Not only that, because a culture of learning from India through the Arabs. Please remember, Indians never went and taught this to anybody there. The Arabs translated Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, and Brahmi script documents to Persian. That was translated to Latin. From Latin, it went to all European languages, including French, English, and German, right? And because you had a culture of doing this, other things also followed. For example, the limits and continuity of infinite series was mainly done in what is placed very near Guruvayur today. It's called the Kerala School of Mathematics. Okay. The leader of this group was Madhava. Madhava and his followers for about 250 years spent time on numbers, infinite sequences, convergence, idea of limits, everything. This was, by that time, there was a lot of trade in Kerala with the Romans, with the Greeks, with the Middle East people, Chinese. Along with that, Jews are also there who are master traders historically. So many of the Jesuit priests also took this knowledge along with the trade and missionary activities. So this is an interesting seminar done, the man who invented calculus. And this resulted in Leibniz and Newton eventually defining the modern version of limit and continuity, which eventually led to calculus. Okay. Other interesting thing is this is the famous house of Ramanujan. who communicated Western mathematics with an Indian mind, Indian knowledge mathematics through Western symbols and amazing things in one notebook. Because he was very poor, he couldn't afford empty notebooks, which was very expensive those days. He would write a problem, solve it using slate or even sometimes stick and sand. And once the solution is there, he would write it. So this book is a collection of his problems with solutions. And people thought it is some magic. It appeared magic because he would simply tell the answer mentally. And you can see here each book has been expanded, and when in modern terms it looks like this. And there is a serious professor called Bruce Brent in the University of Illinois in Chicago. He and his group has spent 40 years on Ramanujan's notebook. So one notebook like this has got converted to already 5 books of this size, and it is continuing. It is not yet complete. Okay. And why Ramanujan is really great is interesting. When Ramanujan went to England to do his bachelor's degree, obviously it was very cold and he fell sick. That's one reason he eventually died, because he developed tuberculosis twice there. But when he was sick and lying on bed, Hardy, the famous professor who had called him, invited him to England, went to see him. And when he went to see him, as usual, England is a dull place, cloudy, murky, little continuously small intensity rain. So you are already very depressed by the time you get out of the house. So he went and sat with him and said hello and told, how are you doing? And then, yeah, today is a very dull day, weather is very dull. And also, today it's a very dull day because I came to see you in a taxi. The taxi number was 1729. You cannot get a number more dull than this. Within 2 minutes, Ramanujan replied,
कोई गया लगता है सबको बैठाया गया कौन है सबको ही सब वसुंधरा मैम दीप सर
Ramanujan replied, very interesting. He said 1729 is one of the most interesting number in the world because it is the first non-trivial number.
Pushpa Kumari madam, please mute your video audio.
He said 1729 is one of the most interesting number. You see, one of the world's greatest mathematician thinks it is a dull number. Ramanujan proved that it is one of the most interesting number. He said this is the first non-trivial number which can be expressed sum of squares in 2 different ways. 1729 is 1 cube plus 12 cube. It is also 9 cube plus 10 cube. Whereas a trivial number like 2 is this. This is the first trivial number. So this is immediately a new topic in mathematics. It is called taxi number. Of course, Hardy took some credit. So it is called Hardy-Ramanujan. It's basically called TA2, taxi number 2, taxi number 3, taxi number 4, taxi number 5. This was all done using computers, whereas this was done instantaneously by Ramanujan sitting on the bed while he was sick. So in fact, after that, Hardy started ranking. He said, if I give 100 out of 100 to the world's best mathematician, his number is only 25 out of 100. His colleague Littlewood's number is 30. The world's greatest mathematician of 20th century, Hilbert, was 80. And he said, on that scale, Ramanujan will be 100 out of 100. So, and Ramanujan had no formal training on mathematics. All his things was the way, and he keep repeating that the goddess in Namakal inspires him to give out answers. So this is that lost notebook. And Bruce Brent has spent 40 years. And nearly all of Ramanujan's theorem have been proved right. Also, mathematicians agreed on the point that it was not possible for someone to imagine those results without solving or proving them themselves. So this is probably exceptionally great. Okay. So that's about mathematics from Indian knowledge system. Even more interesting, work of skill, metals, clothing, pottery, carpentry, agriculture, water management. You see water management, the great Anicut in Tanjavur, predates all these things. And very, very special. Plastic surgery was done in India in 800 BC, 3000 years back at Varanasi. Sushruta wrote the book Sushruta Samhita, which is the first treatise on surgery 3000 years back. These are the surgery tools of 800 BC, 3000 years back. People had tools to do surgery. Where is the proof of this? The proof of this in book. More interesting, how plastic surgery went from Bombay to England, right? This is in the year 1792 to 1794, and there is an interesting Mysore connection. What it happened was, between 1792 and 1799, actually, there were 4 wars between Mysore Kingdom and Britishers. Those days, like even today, everybody fighting a war are not soldiers. There are a lot of laborers, there are cooks, there are servants, everything. So there were a lot of laborers who used to push carts, carry tents, all that. And the rule then was, whenever any army defeats, they would capture the soldiers and keep them in prison. But they would not harm the laborers. The laborers would be sent away. And that culture those days was, any laborer caught working for the enemy, his nose would be cut. They would cut the nose and send, or cut little part of the ear and send. Okay. So similarly, since the British Army then had soldiers and laborers from Maharashtra, this laborer whose nose was cut was sent back to Mumbai. When he went back there, he found a local Ayurvedic doctor who did plastic surgery on his nose. This was amazing to the British officers. They were wondering how this nose got restored. And so they found out that plastic surgery is quite common in India. That is how this incident was published in Gentleman's Magazine in London, and immediately plastic surgery ideas went to Europe. So, in fact, plastic surgery is more advanced than regular routine surgery, because plastic surgery needs much more skill and knowledge. Okay. And this was done 3000 years back. Even Egyptians would do. Whenever there was a wound, they would put it with stale bread. Stale bread develops fungus, molds. Please remember, in one variety of that is actually penicillin, which Alexander Fleming will discover after 2000 years approximately. Okay. So this is typically how it was. We also had very good metallurgy. This is the iron pillar built by Chandragupta II in 400, somewhere around 400 current era, so 1800 years back. Also the Ashoka's pillar, which was done in 300 BC in Ambala, was shifted to Delhi by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And you can see the inscription. Please remember, in 2500 years, it has not rusted. So that's amazing. Iron objects not rusting in 3000 years, even though they're exposed to wind, sun, rain all through, is an amazing feat of metallurgy. And it's now known that the famous sword of Damascus was a place where most of the weapons were made, spears, swords, everything. But there was no source of iron ore anywhere there. We now know one of the trading items from India was iron ore. Iron ore smelted and made into like what we now see, like steel sheets and ingots, which they took it there, remelted it, forged it into. So they had no knowledge of converting raw iron ore into whatever, the pig iron, smelted iron, whatever it is. Copper they knew, iron they didn't know. Similarly, one of the oldest book of political economy and public administration, perhaps the first book which was truly interdisciplinary, because it was a book which combined economics, political science, public administration as a political economy book, which also had topics on governance. It was also the first book on management and statecraft,
The way
written
Indian
by the
literature altogether changed. There was a dramatic
foremost practitioner. At least the author is the one who is the world's best practitioner. Today we have authors who have written books who have no knowledge about the subject. Control C, Control V, Xerox and print. Okay. Today it is so valid because everybody is trying to do interdisciplinary studies. And this book is prescribed all over the world except in India. This is the book. Kautilya's Arthashastra, written in approximately around 350 to 370 BCE. And this manuscript of Arthashastra was discovered in Mysore, very close to where I live in my house. So nearby there is an Oriental Research Institute where a famous librarian, Shama Sastri, accidentally identified. He was preserving the manuscript, and while preserving, he was also reading, and he could understand because he was himself a Sanskrit scholar. And while reading, he realized that this is really the lost book of Arthashastra. People had heard about it. There was no copy in the world. This was discovered. It was found that it's the sixth time it has been copied, meaning every 100, 150 years they would copy because maintaining this would, moths would eat it, fungus would get created, all that, okay? See what Macaulay was saying. Macaulay and other historians were busy propagating that Indians learned art of administration from Greeks, right? Whereas here is an original book on statecraft. It is one of the world's classics, okay? It is printed under the Penguin Classic series. And it's prescribed. I know it's prescribed in Harvard and all, but I don't think it's prescribed in Mysore University. Even more interesting, one of the oldest book on grammar. See, when people were still learning, formulating new languages, here is a book on grammar written 2,500 years back. It is done so well that there is no scope for improvement, which means it is one of the most perfect knowledge ever in history of time. It is a complete grammar of all languages, meaning all kinds of languages, include context-free, context-sensitive, finite languages, everything. In fact, it has a formulation, what people in computer science now know as Backus-Naur form. This is the formation with which all modern programming languages are written, okay? So nothing better in any intellectual work in history of, I'll tell you one thing, you'll be shocked. This is 100 times better than Einstein's E equal to mc squared, because E equal to mc squared made a bomb. This gave people correct knowledge about what to talk, how to speak, what is wrong, how to correct it. Till then, people did not know whether what they were reading and writing is wrong. And if they knew it was wrong, they did not know how to correct it. So it's the most perfect. And it didn't start with Plato. You see here, father of the history of linguistics begins not with Plato or Aristotle, but with the Indian grammarian Panini. The greatest linguist of antiquity. Panini was the greatest linguist of antiquity and deserves to be treated like that. And in fact, just 4 or 5 years back, somebody did a PhD thesis in Cambridge. The title of the thesis was "In Panini We Trust." So there was one of the rules where there was ambiguity to the Westerners, not to Indian scholars here. So that was investigated and a PhD thesis was done. And very interesting. This is a version of Panini's this thing, and you can also see what all was being done in university. The world's first university was in Takshashila. More interesting is the kind of logic, Aristotle logic stopped there. That continued in the same form. Whereas our logic from 4th century BC all the way till 18th century AD, which is 2200 years of reforms of logic has happened in Indian subcontinent. Okay. This is the copy of Ashtayadi, which is formula for perfect grammar in any language. Dr. Leonard Bloomfield, American linguist, called it the greatest monument of human intelligence because for using human intelligence, no better work than this has been done in history of time. Forget all the Nobel laureates. Much better than that. Only thing it's not been awarded or recognized like that. And more interesting, today the world's greatest intellectual is Dr. Noam Chomsky in MIT, who is a linguist. And I have a personal thing to say about that. It's a second-hand contact because a good friend of mine actually went to do his PhD there in linguistics. And Chomsky, who was the head of the department, asked him, "Are you not from India?" He said, "Yes." And then he said, "If you are from India and you have come here to do linguistics, you are wasting your time because what we in a department are doing with 30 faculty for the last 100 years, we have not done 1/10 of what Panini did 2500 years back. So if you are from India and you know Sanskrit, don't come and waste your time here with us." This is his statement, right? Other things, something that is independent of any knowledge system, independent of even reading, writing, something which is universal good. It is good for everybody independent of their knowledge system. It's a preventive medicine and significant therapeutic value it has. Only a fool will not value this. The greatest good done to human well-being from any knowledge system, well-being at zero cost, no bad side effects, no institutional or dogma. This is it. Patanjali's yoga. More interesting, look at pranayama and other things. It is now 4,000 years old, well documented, practiced everywhere, except by people who oppose Indian knowledge system. So what I'm trying to say is there is good in every knowledge system. A sensible person will synthesize all this. A fundamentalist or a dogmatic will say, my knowledge system is good and everything else is bad. So the synthesis approach is only in the Indian knowledge system. That's why the components of Indian knowledge systems are extremely sustainable. And see here, this is the person who introduced back Hatha Yoga. This is again from Mysore. Krishnamacharya accompanied Maharaja of Mysore to Kailas Yatra, and in near Mount Kailas, he met a Tibetan monk who told him the Patanjali's yoga is lost in India. It is only there now in Tibet. We are the masters of it. We want to get it retrieved in India. Please take it back. So Krishnamacharya sent back the Maharaja of Mysore back, stayed in Tibet near Mount Kailas for about 2.5 to 3 years, learned all the Hatha Yoga, came back to Mysore, started a school, and one of his first disciples is B.K.S. Iyengar, who took Hatha Yoga to the entire world. And of course, now today, so many, all versions of yoga, Sri, then Isha Foundation, everybody is doing it, including Goenka, who practices the Buddhist form of meditative techniques. See who practices yoga every day? Father, son, and daughter. Even education, we had the best university education in the world, even though now we have the world's worst education system. Okay. Oxford University started in 13th. Harvard University started only in 17th. Whereas this, when Alexander came to India, invaded the western part of India, he came through Taxila And when men of Alexander the Great came to Taxila in the 4th century BC, they found a university, the like of which had not been seen in Greece, a university which taught the 3 Vedas and 18th accomplishment and was still existing when the Chinese pilgrim Fahian went there in 400 AD. For about 800 years, Taxila was the world's most famous university. Many more. This is 3D visualization of it. Had 10,500 students from 16 countries studying 64 different disciplines. We also had, after the Buddhist domination, so many universities started. We had 14 world-class universities. India was the only country to have university education in ancient time. The reason why they were all shattered by invaders. Particularly the Arabic knowledge system is a very frugal knowledge system, very crude and elementary. And the only way they can remain like that is by destroying what is good in others. So you see this, even the Western knowledge system did that for a long time. And you will see the proof here. You see the interesting traveler from North Africa, Morocco, traveled all over and used to come spend a lot of time in west coast of India. And this is how the trade network was between North Africa, Eastern Africa, Middle East, China, Southeast Asia, and the west coast of India, particularly Kozhikode, Bangalore, and this Bharuch. Every day you had foreigners there, like what you see in a software company today. Okay, so this is Ibn Battuta who came. And he was also the Chief Justice of the Tughlaq Court. He spent about 4 to 6 years in India on 2 visits. And they would take, along with the trade, they would also take knowledge. And knowledge would reach North Africa. And you see, North Africa to Italy is very close. Just across the frequent boats even now travel. Very few would actually go all the way like this and reach Italy. Most of them would reach North Africa and travel across the Mediterranean Sea to reach them. And this is how Fibonacci spent a lot of time in Morocco. His father was an Italian trader who would take goods from Arab merchants who brought it from India, travel across. So along with the merchant, there is always cash calculation. And then calculation, he got amazed. He said, these people calculate so easily, so well. How is it? So they use the Arabic numerals, which is basically the Hindu numerals written in Latin. This is how it is. See the Madhava of Kerala, Fibonacci. Born in Italy and ended in Italy, he spent his younger years in North Africa, which is basically Morocco and this part. That's how he learned the Arab numerals, shifted it into Italy. Italy took it to Latin and all languages. Suddenly there was an explosion, right? This is the Madhava school of mathematics from 380 AD all the way to 1575. And it's only 100 years after that Newton does calculus. Okay. Nevertheless, you see why Western knowledge system dominate. This is a voluntary conference of people in 1927. It's called the Solvay Conference, where Madame Curie is also there. She's the only lady. And all the scientists came on their own. They spent their own money. They used to live in their friend's house just to meet and discuss physics and chemistry and mathematics, right? Not like today's conference where it's a politician inaugurates and some idiot will do the valedictory. Everybody will take certificates. All of them will have points. They will eat well. They will get indigestion, but nothing goes to the brain. This is what is happening in India's academics. See, unless we are serious about academics, we will not be able to contribute knowledge. Today, the knowledge is completely, even our knowledge is diluted. Even the Western knowledge has got diluted in. So you see here, at the time they were sitting, 17 of these people were already Nobel laureates. There are 11 others who became Nobel laureates later. They have done original work. Let's accept it. They have done it very well. What are we doing? We are eating better than them, sleeping better than them. We are paid better than them. And we simply fool and cheat around, right? And you see whether all the knowledge systems have contributed well in this world. You see, has the world changed with knowledge systems? So what about the poor people? They work and work. The maid in everybody's house and the fellow who delivers milk, the one who comes and digs the road, his grandfather was also digging the road. His grandson also will dig the road. What about the rich? They will exploit the poor. It's happening everywhere. What does the soldier do? He protects both the rich and the poor because they are citizens of the country. What does a taxpayer do? He pays for all the four. Subsidize the rich. No, give something to the poor, subsidize the rich, pay the soldier salary. What does the banker do? He will rob all four. What does the lawyer do? He will mislead all five. What does the doctor do? He will bill all the six because all these people will fall sick. What does the Gundas do? He will scare all of these seven people. What does the politician do? He lives happily on account of all these eight people. Today, what you see in Indian politics is exactly this. People are struggling, people are exploiting, soldiers are vulnerable, taxpayers are complaining, bankers are very happy looting others without working, lawyer will kill you before you die, doctor makes heavy money on all the illness, Gundas will live very well before they become this. This is what is happening with all the knowledge system everywhere in the world, which means there is something not correct with the way the knowledge system is used or implemented. And this is not new. You will see what this statement was done by a citizen of Rome. Marcus Cicero in 443 BC of Roman Empire wrote this amazing wisdom. See, in 43 BC, which is 2260 years back, this was the situation of society. And today also, this is the situation of society. So, knowledge systems are needed, but they have not been used by people correctly. Okay, this is it. You see here. We live in a strange world where the poor walk miles to get food and the rich walk miles to digest the food. You will see this in Bangalore. All the parks in Bangalore, evening, you will see IT professionals walking with a fat stomach because they sit all day in front of the computer. They are paid well for very little work. They eat too much. They have to walk to digest. This is it. These are the, so India and the world have all these. We have problems of poverty. There is a bigger problem of prosperity. In fact, in Mysore University and other universities, the problem is this. They are not, teachers don't talk whether the classes are held correctly, teaching is done well, whether the students read or write. Today, the only complaint they have is parking space is not there. Everybody is in a car. This has become a problem of university. You see how things get distorted, okay? And we see what Amol did. What Korean did is nothing. He simply saw Gujarati women doing traditional milk and cheese business, which has been done for last 5,000 years. So we have Indus Valley civilization artifacts with clay utensils with holes in the middle for aeration, which is exactly how they were making cheese. Not the modern cheese, but what you call paneer, right? So he observed all this and he simply brought all of them together, gave them modern technology, professionalized the management. And today you have Amul, which is one of the world's greatest band, right? So why you have IKS in NEP now today is they are making significant changes to see whether we can see our education in a better form. But there are problems. For example, there is a shortage of trained faculty in Indian knowledge system. There is students not willing to take it up. More interesting is if you do IKS, will you get a job? Now to get a job, you do Western knowledge education. In addition, you have to do IKS more out of conviction and passion. All these are problems. So as I said, again, read this book and this book to complete your understanding. Thank you very much. If you have